Hey guys, first Regardsman here, and I'll be talking about every single new tactical perk in Space Marine 2 patch 15. Now, we have known for a while now that Saber intended to change around the tactical class to be a bit more melee oriented. However, the new patch 14.1 hotfix has given us some data mines on all the new perk changes. Some of these are incredibly powerful, some of these seem like reworks to the existing specs. I will be going through all of them here today just to give you my opinions on them and go over what they actually do. I also want to say a big shout out to the Space Marine 2 modding community. They are the ones who data mined this, and they've been doing God's work since the game came out, so huge W from them. So now, first up, we have a new starting perk. Bolt weapons penetrate an unknown amount more enemies, and non-headshot damage is increased by an unknown amount. So this is just the Kraken Penetrator rounds perk attached to the tactical class now as a starting perk. That is a huge buff. Now, whether or not the major damage will be exactly the same, we do not know for sure. But honestly, the Kraken Penetrator rounds is such a strong perk effect that giving this as a starting perk, that is such a wonderful buff for this class. And I think it's way better than his previous option, which just allowed him to reload guns while they were unequipped. So huge W here, even if the damage buff isn't that substantial. Next, we have Armor Reinforcement. Non-finisher gun strikes restore one armor segment here. This is a god tier melee perk in the game because armor will damage cap against melee attacks in Space Marine 2, and this has been a top tier option for both the Bulwark and Assault for like ages now. So giving this a tactical, honestly, I never expected this, but this is a huge buff for his melee setups. Next, we have Unyielding Strike. During a gun strike, you don't lose 12 heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back, and you will take an unknown amount less damage. Okay, so this sounds like they are replacing Heightened Vigor because he already has a very strong no knockback perk option in the game currently, and this would be very redundant with that, which does make me think they're probably going to nerf Heightened Vigor because Heightened Vigors gives you a 10-second no knockback for just a free perfect parry on top of bonus damage, and I think that one is a bit cracked on him at the moment, and given all the other options they're giving him, they're probably going to swap that out, but we'll see. Next, we have the after switching weapons. Your secondary weapon deals 25% more damage. This is just versatility. We already see this in the game already. And we also have improved efficiency. The Auspex scan zone lasts unknown amount of seconds longer with an unknown base duration. So these are already in the game, kind of. But the next one here is pretty new, which is range targeting. Enemies marked by the Auspex scan will take an unknown amount additional range and gun strike damage, but unknown less melee damage. So this is a trade-off Auspex scan. We already see those in the game already, kind of like with a precise calibration for reduced radius, but this one is only prioritizing your range damage. So that will also probably apply for your teammates, which means you will likely be building into team comms for like range orientation or melee, depending on your tactical setup, which is a pretty cool option. Next, we have close targeting. Enemies marked by the Auspex scan take an unknown amount additional melee damage, but less range damage. So these are almost certainly going to be in the exact same tree. And this is probably like the third tree in the your option, and they're probably just going to make it so you have to pick between them. Like, do you want range setups or do you just want to have a melee setup? So pretty cool options there. Next, we have a really cool perk option, which is mobile auspex. Auspex scan will activate around you, but the scan radius is increased by an unknown amount. So basically, you're just walking around and you have a just Auspex scan popping out around you. That's a pretty cool perk effect. Will that be the strongest option in the game? Probably not, but I think gimmicks like this or things that change around the class abilities entirely, these are great for the game. And if you can stack this with damage buffs, it'll be pretty strong. It seems people actually like this one because people are like emoting on it. But yeah, I think this one's definitely one of the cooler options. And I hope that Saber adds in more perks in the game like this that will change around how your class abilities work fundamentally. Next, we have Rapid Auspex. Auspex scan emits a single pulse instead of creating a scan zone, and you gain an unknown amount of charges, and its radius is reduced by an unknown amount. Okay, so we have a multiple charge Auspex scan. That's pretty fun. That means you like go around and just shoot out multiple Auspexes into a horde. That's pretty fun to use, and I have to say, this might make things like Second Look way better because if you're shooting out like a bunch of Auspexes constantly, being able to get them back automatically on a single missed one, that would make the prestige perks a lot better as well. So pretty cool perk effect here. Next, we have Strong Point. While inside the Auspex scan area, you and your squad members deal an unknown amount more melee damage and take an unknown amount less health damage. Okay, so this sounds like the Auspex scan areas are going to last significantly longer for some of these builds, because if it's just the current Auspex, I mean, Auspex does not last long enough to make a buff like this meaningful, but they are reworking a bunch of these perks here, and they might even rework the base duration of the Auspex scan, which we can't even see here because they did show up in the ability tree that we have an unknown amount of seconds that the Auspex scan will be active, so this might be playing into that. That could be a really strong perk effect, or it could be an absolutely hot pile of trash, depending, but we'll see what the Auspex duration is like. Next, we have Target Lock. Auspex Scan applies a gunstrike mark to the most dangerous enemy within range. So this perk sounds fun. The obvious synergy here is that you take the new armor reinforcement option, you mark the enemy, you apply a gunstrike mark to them, and you shoot them, get your armor back. Though I have to say, I don't know how much of a fan I actually am of the Auspex Scan gunstrike marking people for me. There's no guarantee he's going to give me the one I want, and also I don't think a single gunstrike on like an Auspex mark is that valuable. Maybe if I was playing Tech Marine, all the gunstrikes are just free animations, but on this class, this one doesn't sound that good. But the next perk does sound good, which is Tactical Reserve. Your secondary weapon is replaced with a primary bolt rifle. All right, guys, this is one we got to talk about because this one sounds cracked. The real question here is whether or not you will be able to select the bolt rifle you pick on the relic variant. And if that is true, if you can select a grenade launcher, this is one of the best perks Space Marine 2 has ever seen. I mean, having the option to have a grenade launcher as a secondary opens up a ridiculous amount of options on the tactical class, because then you can slap on a Pyreblaster, a Melter Rifle, a Plasma in your primary slot, and you have one of the best weapons in the entire game as your secondary to stagger enemies, to recover your CHP. You will never use the Heroic Plasma Pistol ever again. But the question is, will this allow you to pick a grenade launcher? And we don't know for sure. My real worry would be that Saber would dictate which bolt rifle you get from this, and they're gonna give you like a shitty version. But even if it's just a shitty bolt rifle or like a normal ass basic relic tier version, I would say this is still an okay perk if that's true, because we do have crack and penetrator rounds as a built-in starting perk, which means fundamentally all bolter weapons are going to be better on the tactical class next patch than they were this patch, just off of the crack and penetrate rounds being a starting perk. So definitely a cool option, one of the most interesting perks that Saber has ever done for any class in this game, and I really hope that going forward for things like Heavy and Vanguard in future patches in Year 3, they do more things like this, because having options that fundamentally change your gameplay loop like this, I think are just really fun for the classes in the game. Next, we have Marked for Death, which will almost certainly replace Marked for Death in the signature tree. This also seems to be a signature perk as well, replacing Signal Jammer. And this one says, activating Auspex Scan weakens one Majoris or extreme assault enemy. All damage bonuses applied by Auspex Scan against that target are increased by X. So this is just a damage nuke option. So that is every single new perk coming for the tactical class in Space Marine 2 patch 15. Now, the big question here is which perks are being replaced by the new options. There are a couple ways to tell, just because number one, Marked for Death is obviously Marked for Death, so it's be like the signature tree, and Target Lock will likely be replacing Signal Jammer, but for some of the other ones, it's a little harder to tell because we don't know exactly which tiers these are. But the big thing here, the big question that a lot of players have had, the big question I have is, will they be nerfing the Auspex overall? Because if you're unaware right now in Space Marine 2, the Tactical's Auspex Scan is so strong that he is able to apply a damn near 300% buff with the proper perk setup for your entire team, and that allows you to nuke bosses down in like 2 seconds on the hardest difficulty. And the fact that we have signature perks here that are buffing up the Auspex specifically against like 2 types of enemies, or having things that swap out your range damage or things for melee damage instead, it sounds like the concentrated fire precise calibration acceleration combo is going to vanish in the next patch. I think they are probably going to be nerfing that because the damage buff there is so strong. It has been such a fundamental part of the class for ages that it's taken away from his other build options, and that might be a controversial change. I mean, maybe they won't even do it, but the big thing here is if they do decide to nerf the Auspex like that, that's probably why they're adding in all these new range options, melee options, and also giving him absurd perks like potentially a grenade launcher as a secondary weapon. So that is pretty much all I have to say in this one, guys. Keep in mind the patch 15 is coming out in September, early September, so the anniversary patch is very close right now, and I'm curious what you guys think about the new perk options for the tactical. Is this what you wanted to see? Are you interested in melee oriented perks? And how would you feel if the Auspex scans, like overall damage nuking option, got nerfed a bit in like favor of having more utility options like we see here? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you want to catch me live to ask me questions about the game or just coming out, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description. Also a link to my community Discord. And I also want to say a special thank you to my channel members. You guys help me keep the channel alive and help me make videos like this. And as always, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Bye.